Wow. 2023 was an incredible year for cinema. We saw some amazing performances, huge technical achievements, people returning to the theaters, and some amazing indie films that went under the radar. I want to give you a list of films that you should be watching from this year, some that you may have heard of and others that you may have missed. So let's jump right into this. This is a filmmaker's guide to the best films of 2023. Of course, go see Oppenheimer, Barbie, Napoleon. These are films that you likely have heard of. But let's talk about two films that perhaps you don't know about. Fun fact, both of these films are by female Canadian filmmakers out of the province of Quebec. Let's talk about the short documentary Oasis by Justine Martin. This is a film that follows two twin brothers as they are coming of age and learning about their neurodiversity. What I really appreciate about this documentary is there's not a single interview until about halfway through the film. Justine shoots this with a strong cinematic approach that feels almost like a feature film. It's only a 13-minute film, and I put the link below so you can check it out. Next, I want to talk about a film made by another Canadian female filmmaker, Zayne Akyol, called Rojek. This film is getting Oscar buzz. In Canada, it's been put up for the Best International Feature, submitted to the Oscars, but this looks at the rebuilding of the region Kurdistan, and it's done through incredible interviews. Not only is the B-roll stunning, and this film actually won an award from Roger Deakins himself, but the interviews draw you in to a group of people that we may not know much about. These are members of the terrorist group ISIS. And I love documentary films where I get to meet people that I would never have the chance to have a conversation with. Bravo, Zayne. I could talk about this film all day, but we gotta keep moving. Let's switch it up a bit. Have you seen John Wick 4? Well, it came out this year. It's worth it to see just for the scene with the staircase at the end of the film. I'm not a big fan of action films, but I am obsessed with the John Wick series. They're a refreshing take on the genre, and it never takes itself too seriously, but has built a colorful, deep world, which makes me want to continue to watch more films from this franchise. Moving on to a film that got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes is How to Build a Pipeline. No, it's How to Blow Up a Pipe. Not build a pipeline, it's How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Very different.
We have to show how vulnerable the oil industry is by hitting something big.
This was an ecological thriller directed by Daniel Goldhaber, whose directing style people really assimilate to Steven Soderbergh. Although it's not necessarily a very believable script, it's far from a simple how-to heist film. This film had a lot of twists along the way and leaves you guessing on how it's going to end. I didn't really think I'd be saying the words ecological thriller, but this definitely lives up to that title.
Yeah.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
This could be you at Christmas time.
What's in the box?
I don't have a fancy knife like the other YouTubers out there. That's the cutest mic ever. Look at this. This is awesome. Sennheiser, this is the coolest, cutest little mic, and it has this capsule built in here to keep it windproof, but also like kind of shockproof. You can also add this sock on here. I've been loving the Sennheiser gear. Started partnering with them about 1.5 years ago. We used all their gear on our tornado project, which was kind of windy. But I'm always happy to talk about them on this channel. Let's actually get this on. Can you use it on it? Yeah, you can use it on there. But I know if it's anything like my 400, which this mic I switched to 1.5 years ago, and it sounds so good for all my vlogging when I'm running around. I actually used it on a recent film I was working on alongside the 416, and it sounded great. While I'm talking about Sennheiser, not only does it sound amazing, but they have huge discounts this holiday season. You can get this MKE 200 mobile kit is on sale right now for $79, down from $100. And they also have their lav set that we've been using on all of our teaching videos, the EWDP ME2 set. That's on sale right now for $150 off. You can get that for $549 this holiday season. I love Sennheiser. Been using all their products, including their noise canceling headphones. The products are well made. You can grab them like this. No, you can't. Don't do this. But it's strong enough. It's not shaking around there. They've actually put the shock capsule inside the mic, which is a pretty smart design. So check out these amazing holiday deals that Sennheiser has right now. Big thank you to Sennheiser for always being a huge supporter of the channel and helping make our films sound the best. Partway through the summer, people were unequivocally saying that Oppenheimer would be getting the Best Directing nod for Christopher Nolan. But There's another film, Origin, which could be a dark horse. The press's rumors, which you always have to remember, the press gets paid to write a lot of these things. So I highly recommend, even from what I'm saying, go see the films yourself, because often what someone's saying in an article might not necessarily be your cup of tea for films. Director Ava Duvernay's approach to this film and how she got such amazing performances from her characters has been giving some buzz for Best Director. It's not often that you watch a film and you think, I haven't seen something like this before, or at least not something similar for a very long time. And that was the case with the film Origin. It's halfway between an educational film and a drama, and has some incredible performances that I think will probably get some nods at the Oscars, or at least nominations. Quick mention, Air, this came out early in 2023. Fantastic film, doesn't really pull any punches. It's a small sliver of a bigger story if you've ever read the book Shoe Dog. It's a fun film, Ben Affleck directed it, but for me, it's one of those films that's almost too perfect. I loved it, it was great, but it didn't do anything new for me. Certainly embraced the 80s style, the cinematography was perfect, the performances was great, but if we're talking about workplace dramas, and what is the best one of the year, I have to give that to Blackberry.
You said they were the best engineers in the world. I said they're the best engineers in Canada.
This was an incredible film by a young Canadian film director, Matt Johnson, and he knocked it out of the park with this film. What I appreciate about Blackberry more than Air is they had a lower budget, so they had to be more creative. There was more handheld moments. Where Air felt like I was watching a film about a real story, Blackberry felt like I was watching a real story that happened to be a film. It's about the gritty events of the Canadian cell phone company, Blackberry, and their origins, and their rise and also fall, because this thing came along.
And we are calling it iPhone.
I highly recommend watching Air and then watching Blackberry, and you'll get the sense that when there's restrictions in your career as a filmmaker, like lower budget, it sometimes actually brings about more magic, because you have to be more creative in the way that you approach scenes. I highly recommend this film, especially for those who had a Blackberry once upon a time. I think my mom was the last person to hold on to Blackberries. She was buying them until they told people you cannot buy these anymore. She still misses her keyboard. I want to give a quick shout out to a film that came out the year before, but I've been wanting to talk about this film for so long on this channel, and that's the movie Tar. I loved this film. Every scene felt like its own short film. There was an aesthetic and visual approach to how the director, what's the director's name?
Oh, come on!
Todd Field. Of course, the worst with names. Todd, you killed it. Why I like Todd Field's approach to this film is I was saying every scene feels like its own film. The cinematic style becomes a character. Whether it's a moment where the camera's just sitting in the audience of an auditorium, panning and letting the entire scene unfold without any edits, or if it's the intense tight shots in the moments of when she's conducting her orchestra. Every shot was meticulously thought through. Bravo, incredible film. But that was 2022, but you probably haven't seen it. Another film that came out in 2023, and I can do this because it's my channel, and that's Chase It From the South. It was one of my latest documentary films. It's a short documentary. I'll put a link below for you to watch it. It's about when passion and responsibility collide in Tornado Alley. This is following Ricky Forbes and Chris Chittick as they pursue their passion for tornado chasing, but also their responsibility as fathers. I had a very fun time about this and finally got to see a tornado up close and personal. If you have 23 minutes this Christmas break, perhaps you want to take a watch. Moving on. The Anatomy of a Fall. No, I think it's just Anatomy of a Fall. Is it? Moving on. Anatomy of a Fall. This won the Palme d'Or at Cannes and was directed by another female filmmaker, Justine Triet. This is a French courtroom drama, and I can't say much about it because I haven't seen it, but the buzz I have heard around this film has been impressive. It has one of the highest Rotten Tomato ratings, I believe, out of any film on this list. So for me and you, we should watch this film. Let me actually open up my camera here. It's getting darker out. It's Canada, and it's 3:40, and it's so dark out. There we go, a little more light. Next, we're talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, I've heard some people complaining that it's 3 hours, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, that it's too long, but that was the whole point. Not to make a long film, but that the conversations and the dialogue in this film needed time to breathe. You know when someone's telling you a lie and you're trying to figure it out and you're trying to look at their face and you don't want to rush the moment? That's what this whole film leaned into. Both Leonardo DiCaprio's performance and Lily Gladstone were amazing, and I would be very surprised if they both don't get nominated for Best Actor and Best Actress. And I really hope Lily actually wins Best Actress from what I've seen. Her performance was amazing. I don't want to give away too much in the film if you're unfamiliar with what happens, but of course there's so much injustice in the history of building our nations. And this film doesn't skirt around the truth. Incredible cast, incredible film. I highly recommend it. Speaking about actors I love Adam Driver and I love Penelope Cruz. And she's probably gonna be nominated for Best Supporting Actress in the movie Ferrari. Fun fact about this movie, this is a passion project from director Michael Mann. He's wanted to make this film for so long that Robert De Niro was supposed to be the lead actor.
You talking to me?
But now, here we are, almost 30 years later. I guess that is 30 years. Yeah, 30 years later, and the film has finally been made. Wow, I'm getting old. And one of the biggest challenges of this film, I'm sure, was due to insurance reasons, Adam Driver was not allowed to drive any of the classic race cars. That would be the worst. You're making a film about Ferrari and you're not allowed to get in some of the cars. Nothing like having your driver's license taken away by the insurance. Regardless though, anything with Adam Driver, I'll probably watch. Now, let's talk about some animes. I grew up watching Gundam Wing and Dragon Ball Z and Ghost in the Shell. These are kind of more of the famous animes. I can't say I've gotten into any more of the obscure ones, but this was a strong year for this genre. The first Slam Dunk came out this year, and it's currently the 5th highest grossing anime film of all time. And I really appreciated the cinematic style with this. Not only did it pull from actual traditional lensing of shallow depth of field and camera movements, but some of the more dreamlike sequences were stunning. And another fan favorite that's gotten over 96% on Rotten Tomatoes and 98% audience awards is Suzume, which follows a girl of the same name as she saves her country from impending doom. From what I understand, I haven't seen the film, it's a bit more friendly for all ages. Sometimes animes, despite being cartoons, aren't the most kid-friendly. All right, we've been speaking about a lot of dramas, but let's talk about a comedy, Raine. This was the directorial debut of Raine Allen Miller. And traditionally, comedies have always just been kind of 16:9, very bright and flat lighting. But this film was actually quite dynamic, kind of pulled from that Master of None style where they shot on anamorphic lenses. And they especially used a lot of wide angle lenses, bringing you into these spaces and worlds and made them really quite colorful. It made them really quite colorful. Good. Raine, check it out. Speaking of colorful, there was Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. Definitely not one of my favorite Wes Anderson films, but it's still worth the watch as Wes Anderson leans into his most Wesy Anderson-y way of approaching his filmmaking with beautiful, colorful sets and a very HDR look to his color palette on this one, boosting the shadows and having those bright pastel yellows and blues throughout the film. But my one criticism of this film is it's almost a bit too meta, cutting back and forth between the theatrical play and the Asteroid City world. I thought this was a unique approach and it was refreshing to see a Wes Anderson film with a new approach, but I most enjoy Wes Anderson when he's taking us on an adventure through different locations, different sets, as you're chasing towards some innocuous goal that's actually really quite existential. I didn't mind this film, but it wasn't my favorite Wes Anderson, but nonetheless, it's still quite fun. If we're on the fun train, which we are right now, we're talking about Holdovers. This has been getting a lot of buzz this year and perhaps might get the nod for a few of the best actors or supporting roles. It's a comedy set in the 1970s as students at a boarding school have to stay over for the Christmas break, kind of like an extended detention. And it really leans into that 1970s aesthetic and the quirky power dynamic between students and their professor. And I know it'll be one of those films that I'll watch with my family over the Christmas break. Quick rapid fire of some films that you may want to see. There's The Covenant, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Maestro with Bradley Cooper, The Color Purple, Beau is Afraid, Godland, Pacifiction, and Passages. Many, many great films as you can see. And lastly, I'll mention one of A24's films is Zone with Interest. Truth be told, I haven't seen this film, but based on the buzz, I had to include it on this list because it's definitely high up on my watch list. There's a good chance that it'll be nominated not only for Best Cinematography, but Best Editing as well. One interesting thing I read about this film was the director's approach to more of the gruesome scenes. Rather than just showing them and enjoying that violence, as Scorsese often does, including in Killers of the Flower Moon, but rather director Jonathan Glazer leaned into the sound design, which allows us to imagine the violence. And sometimes our imagination is more scary than actually seeing the real thing. That's why like a movie like Signs was so scary up till the point that you saw the alien, because we are just in our imagination. Or the movie Jaws, why they didn't actually want to show you Jaws for that much of the film until the end, and that's more scary. It's the anticipation, it's what's underneath the bed that is more scary than actually seeing it. So there you go. I'm sure I missed a lot of films. I actually know I did, because there's a lot that I just couldn't put on this list, or else this video would be 3 hours long. But leave your comments below. Let me know what films you wanted. If you've seen my tornado film, leave me a tornado emoji. Appreciate that. That's the best gift you could give me for Christmas, is watching one of my films. But you don't have to. Who really cares?
Don't make a scene!
But let me know what films you liked. Let me know what films you think are gonna win Best Picture or Best Director, or what the best performances of the year were. I highly recommend seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. I had a friend recently tell me that they didn't like the film because it was too long, and I told them I didn't like them as a friend because they're too boring. Anyways, I hate goodbyes, but you have a very Merry Christmas. If I don't see you until then, perhaps I'll never see you. I really don't know how to end these YouTube videos. I guess you just say goodbye. Goodbye.